Guild Wars 2's 6th expansion is Visions of Eternity, and in it there will be new elite specializations for all 9 classes. For the Ranger elite specialization, they will get the Galeshot, which thematically is about wind, it's about longbows and arrows, and it's about mobility and being pretty quick. So in this video I'm going to go over all the mechanics that you will need to know to play the Galeshot, not just one build. We'll go over maybe a build or two here and there, but essentially we're just going to teach you how the class plays so that you can figure out how it works quickly and not have to fiddle with all of the mechanic learning. We're going to teach you how it works here. So let's just start off by going over the main mechanic of the Galeshot, which is the Cyclone Bow. You have access to this kit, which you can swap into and out of at any time, and it counts as swapping weapon. So you have 2 weapons, which count as swapping weapons, but then you also have the Cyclone Bow. So that works very well with swap sigils. It works well with the skirmishing traits that you get, like Quick Draw or the Fury and Swiftness that you get, and those will trigger when you go into the Cyclone Bow, which can help you to do a lot of burst, because this is more of a power-oriented specialization. There's essentially no conditions on the new skills or any of the traits. It's all power, so you probably are going to be playing this as a power-oriented build, not really a supportive build, although a quickness DPS is definitely possible on this due to some of the traits here. But the Cyclone Bow is going to use ammo called arrows to use the skills. So the one skill is just free, you can just spam that whenever you want, but the 2, 3, 4, 5 cost arrows to use, and they will give you wind force for each skill used. So the 2 skill is like the Longbow 2, it shoots off a volley of arrows, does only that, it does a little bit of damage, and then you're good to go. It gives you 1 wind force, and it costs 1 arrow. And you got the 3 skill, which is like the Shortbow 3, which is an evade backwards, and it will also block projectiles. So that will also cost 1 arrow, and it will give you 1 wind force. Then at Quarry's Peril is the kind of like the Longbow 5, where you ground target an ability and you shoot it in that area. It's much quicker, so it's not pulsing damage like the Barrage, but it will immobilize, so it's a nice CC to set up your burst. And that will cost 2 arrows and give you 1 wind force. Then the 5 skill is kind of like the Longbow 4 or the Shortbow 5. You will sit here and you will not be able to move while casting it, but it will daze the target for 3 seconds, and it pierces and it's unblockable. So if the target is blocking, you can interrupt the block by dazing them. So quite good for setting up burst. So you could maybe immobilize them, and then when they try to block while they're immobilized, you interrupt them. So very powerful skill there, does a lot of damage, and it's a daze, so in PvP modes it won't do 0 damage. But also this costs 3 arrows, and it will give you 2 wind force. So essentially to use all of your skills here will cost 7 arrows, right? So we do 2, 3, 4, and then 5, and then we've got 1 arrow left. So you're going to use all of your ammo up, and then when you do that, you're going to get to 5 wind force. 5 wind force allows you to use Hawkeye, so it changes your 1 skill into a new skill, and you can use that while running around in any angle, and it does a big burst of damage on 1 target, and then it will do a little bit of extra damage to nearby targets. So whenever you go into your Cyclone Bow, you're going to essentially just use all of your 2 through 5 skills, and then you're going to use Hawkeye. Make sure you have 7 arrows first to do that. Now there's some ways that you can change that up, and combat can be a little bit dynamic, so it's not always going to be that way. So if I get a little bit of wind force up, and then I didn't realize that I didn't have enough arrows to use the rest of my skills, well, you cannot leave the bow and then go back in, because you lose your wind force. So you really want to make sure that you have at least 7 arrows, or almost 7 arrows when you're going in, because you'll recharge maybe 1 or 2 in the process of using those skills. So that is kind of like the main idea of the Galeshot. Now let's go over the traits. So we have access to, on the Galeshot, a lot of swiftness synergy. So your strike damage is increased when you have swiftness or super speed, and your swiftness is more effective. So 20% more than 33% is basically 40%, I believe. So your swiftness is more effective, you're moving around faster, and you're going to want to have swiftness on this build always. And what that means is there's many ways to access swiftness on a ranger, but you need to make sure that you have it. So either going the skirmishing trait line, I have a bird here. Birds will give you swiftness on their attack. They'll do an attack which gives swiftness. So all the birds have that quickening screech. Also, you can use, I believe, what is another way to get swiftness? Oh yeah, Warhorn. So it's always good to have a Warhorn. Since you've got 2 weapons anyways, might as well have a Warhorn as one of your secondary weapon set. Maybe if you have a longbow and you really like that, you don't necessarily have to have that, but having a Warhorn in the other set is pretty nice so that you can ensure that you have swiftness to get that extra damage. And there's also ways to get more swiftness just by using movement skills as well, but you may not need this. And then you also have increased movement speed baseline. So this is kind of not needed at all because you have so much access to swiftness and you're going to want swiftness anyways. But on top of that, if you didn't have swiftness already, you're going to get some more movement speed. Now the traits here, squalls are your utility skills that you get as the Galeshot. And using one of the squalls is going to remove conditions from you if you choose this trait. I feel like this is not bad because some of the squalls can be movement skills. So for example, the whirlwind here, this squall is a movement skill. And so if you're immobilized, you wouldn't be able to move. But since this removes movement inhibiting conditions, you'd be able to not only break out of that immobilize, but you'd be able to move at the same time. So kind of slippery, this class, a lot of movement to it. But that is not necessarily the trait that you're going to take all the time. You can get the extra swiftness that you need here if you want from the movement skills, but there's also Wuthering Wind, which after you use Bluster, which is your Cyclone Bow 2 skill, it will do an extra damaging field from your pet. So that can be nice. It's going to be around your pet. Your pet's next attack will do it. And that's just nice extra damage, so you'll probably take that if you're doing a PvE DPS build. And you'll probably take this if you're going for like a PvP build, because this build's weakness is being locked down because you want to be at range, right? You want to be kiting a lot with a long range ranger build. And then here we've got Flock Together. This increases the damage of the avian pets. So it works really well with Fang and Claw, which also increases the damage of avian pets. So if you take both these traits while using birds, they're going to do a lot of damage. Could be a nice little pet build there. And reminder, all the other ranger specializations have kind of a synergy with pets. This one has essentially none. There is no synergy with pets except for this trait. So you're going to maybe want to go Beast Mastery in some cases if you want your pet to be useful. Otherwise, your pet is going to be kind of weak. But this will increase avian pets, and it will make beast skills grant quickness around the ranger instead of the pet. So that's like a quickness DPS option there. Another thing is it increases the health of your birds, because birds are really squishy, and that means that they die very easily, and that can be really bad, especially on this spec, because you don't have the soul beast synergy of reviving your pet. So this can be really good with birds. But there are also some other good traits here. This one changes Quarry's Peril, which is your 4 skill, into an ammo skill that does basically no utility. So this is like the PvE DPS option, because this skill is maybe not worth to use in some scenarios. Or, for example, if you wanted to not use the 3 skill. So like if I wanted to do the maximum Hawkeye damage combo, and then I have to use the 3 skill, which is kind of weird to use. So if I put this on instead, what I can do is, let me leave the bow first. So let me show how it works, right? You're going to do 2, and then you're going to do 3, which is an evade. And you don't always want to evade because you're doing your burst combo. And so that can be a little bit weird. So what I can do here is, let me remove this golem and reset it. So what I can do is I can put on this trait, and that means that I can skip using the 2 entirely, and then I can get 5 of the wind force by doing the 4 skill. And I have Cloud Burst on, so it keeps recharging the 2 skill, but essentially you would do 2, 4, 5, 4, and that would give you enough wind force to use your Hawkeye without using your evade skill, which is kind of like low in momentum when you want to be aggressive. Now, Fetch. Fetch is pretty nice. This is probably going to be the PvP trait because it gives you 2 arrows when you swap pets. And the reason why this is good is because, say for example, I'm going to have low arrows because I just did my Hawkeye combo, and then I do my Hawkeye, whatever, and then I'm going to leave and wait a little bit, and maybe I use all my skills, and it takes 5 seconds for you to get one of your arrows back. So it takes quite a while to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap pet, and then I've got pretty much enough arrows to do my combo again. Now you do have to wait for the supersonic arrow again sometimes, but like for example right here, I've got enough. And I wouldn't have enough arrows to use that if I didn't swap pet and get that extra 2 arrows. So there's a lot of options. This is why I kind of like the design of the Galeshot. There's one way to play it, which is just long range damage, but there are many different play styles within it because you can choose more. You can use more Cyclone Bow, you can use less Cyclone Bow, more of the weapons, and yeah, it works really well, I think, because of that. Now let's go over the Cloud Burst trait. So this gives quickness to nearby allies when you use Bluster and Hawkeye. So that's just for PvE. I believe you get Fury in PvP, but it will also recharge your 2 skill when you use the Quarry's Peril and Supersonic Arrow, which are the 4 and the 5. So what I can do is I can, with the Fetch trait, I can use 2, 4, 2, 5, 2, and then I can swap pet as well. And then I've used the 2 skill a lot there. I used it 3 times, and that can add up a lot of damage over time. So Cloud Burst is, well, it's a lot of burst. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You just do 2, 4, 2, 5, 2, and it's going to cost a lot of arrows, right? Because, well, the 2 skill is only 1 arrow, but it is going to be more arrows than your cap is. So generally, Fetch is going to allow you to do that. Then you got Gale Force. Gale Force just gives you movement speed and damage modifier when you have Wind Force. And then when you use Hawkeye, it will give you that maximum stacks of that buff for 10 seconds afterwards. So this is really good for using your entire burst combo. You do it, you get up your Wind Force, and then we're going to use Hawkeye. Then we got maximum damage from the Gale Force trait. And then we want to swap immediately out, use our weapon burst, and then after 10 seconds it's going to run out, and then we'll maybe swap to a less damaging weapon, kind of like maybe we could go into the longbow really fast here while the cooldown is starting to drop off, and then what we'll do is we'll barrage and then go back into the bow, try to get that buff up again, and then we will use Hawkeye and get the buff up again. So this is not as, I'm thinking that this is not as good as Cloud Burst for burst, but it's better than Cloud Burst if you're not using Fetch, I believe, because Cloud Burst requires Fetch, in my opinion, to use it. So Cloud Burst is more of like maybe a PvP oriented build, and maybe Gale Force is more PvE oriented DPS. But then you've also got Shrike, which just overall just gives you more damage when you use projectiles. After hitting with 8 projectiles, or rather missiles, which is essentially projectiles, it will just do an extra bit of damage. So this is like bursty using the Cyclone Bow. This is bursty between the Cyclone Bow and not the Cyclone Bow. And this is just like adding extra damage over time, regardless of the Cyclone Bow or not. So say, for example, if you really don't like the Cyclone Bow, I don't know why, and you prefer to just use bows, well, then your longbow would do extra shots, like it shoots out these extra projectiles while you're just shooting out your bow. And that could be pretty fun because it's just extra projectiles. It's not bad, and it works very well with rapid fire. And say, for example, I have quick draw. You could use this with the quick draw build. You can use the 2 skill swap, get the quick draw, swap out, and then your 2 is already off cooldown. You can do it again. So there's some ideas there that you can go with Shrike, but in general, Shrike is kind of boring, right? Because it's just passive damage. Although passive damage is always good when you already have great damage to add on top of that. So there's definitely some good options here. Now let's go over, those are the traits. Let's go over the utility. So the heal skill is just cleansing 2 conditions and then super speed. That's pretty much it. It also gives super speed to your pet, which is not bad. But the piercing gales is a projectile. It's 5 projectiles on the target, and it will do more damage to targets that have vulnerability on them. So it does, I believe, 2% more damage per vulnerability. But basically this works very well with the marksmanship trait. I believe it's this one, opening strike, and the longbow 2, because you'll get vulnerability on the target. And then you can hit with the piercing gales, and it's just 5 projectiles. They do good damage to vulnerable targets. This is going to be extremely good in PvE because it's just a low animation and low cooldown extra piece of damage that probably scales really well when the enemy has vulnerability on them. It also pierces targets, so it can be great AoE, but it is not usable from behind, right? So you got to be facing the target. So Hawkeye, I don't know if I said this already, but you can use Hawkeye while not facing the target. So it's kind of good in PvP situations to kite around while using it. But this skill, Piercing Gales, it is, it also gives vulnerability itself. So it will probably do pretty good damage no matter what. But if you're in PvP, you maybe not have access to this because you need to have stun breaks or something else. So what other skills are there? There's the Whirlwind, which is a movement skill. It has 2 count recharge in PvE, but I believe only 1 in PvP. It gives you an evade, it gives you a leap, and it gives you super speed. And of course, you can also get condition removal from this trait. Pretty nice. I think I'll be using that just to be able to kite better in some situations, because you don't really get much mobility baseline on the Cyclone Bow. You just got this, which is not great mobility. So it's a pretty nice thing to take to have some mobility in your build. Then we've got Mistral, which creates a wind, and your arrows through that will cause chill. And as you can, I have Shrike here as well. So the Shrike is adding even more to the Mistral, which is giving a lot of chill. So it creates a projectile. Basically, it's not actually a projectile finisher, but it functions as a projectile finisher where your arrows just get chill. I don't think that's too good, by the way, but it's interesting and it's cool thematic. I don't really think it will be used really ever, though, to be honest. And the final one that you get is Wind Shear. This is a stun break, and it will create a wind around you that reflects incoming projectiles. Not amazing, because I believe the duration of it is very fast. Anything that reflects projectiles with a very fast animation can be hard to use because combat is so fast in this game and you have to react to it. So it might be difficult, but this is a stun break, so that is kind of nice, but it just doesn't really do much else besides that. Then there's Perfect Storm, which is the elite skill. This will launch enemies and then deal damage when it stops at the area that it will end up at. You can cast this on yourself and just do damage on yourself, but the launch comes from the projectile first. So you want to launch enemies and then do damage to them in the area that you kind of knock them towards. So the idea of the build that I'm using for PvE open world is to have a little bit of avian synergy. So I've got 2 bird pets. I've got the owl and the eagle. So my pet is doing a decent amount of damage, and that will give me some quickness as well. I've got quickness as well from the quick draw, and we're using Shrike as our main idea of this build. We want to hit as many projectiles as possible, because whenever a missile or projectile hits, it counts as one hit, and then every 8 times you hit, it will shoot the Shrike at the target, which does like what, 3 hits of things. But because we have piercing projectiles on our longbow, we can hit multiple times with the projectiles there, and Hawkeye also hits many times as well. So we want to be using rapid fire, which does the most projectiles, and piercing with that to basically get as many of the Shrikes to trigger as possible, and to just see that go off. And bonus if you have the Aurene legendary, because then it kind of looks like you're doing Shrike non-stop. But yeah, we're just going Force Air, Scholar, Berserker, Relic of the Eagle. We can go for Zakiros here actually, because that will heal us, because we don't really have too much healing otherwise. And we've got a sword and Warhorn just for a little bit of mobility here. But yeah, it's mostly going to be about that longbow and the Cyclone Bow. And these mobs here do quite a bit of damage, so that can be a little bit dangerous. But what we want to do is kind of angle ourselves to pierce with the positioning, basically. And that will be nice. And just basically always use the longbow 2 with the Cyclone Bow. And the thing is, so like right now I'm in the longbow, and I don't want to use quick draw in the Cyclone Bow. I want to use it on rapid fire. So what you can just do with that is just go in and then leave, and then you get the rapid fire trigger on your quick draw, and then you can do the rapid fire again, get the Shrike triggers, and then you can always decide to use your Cyclone Bow when you run out there. The 2 is going to give you the most projectiles, but we can also use the 4 if it's on cooldown. And then when we get the Hawkeye, that's going to give us a lot of projectiles. It's going to trigger Shrike. I don't know how many times there, so yeah, just focus on using the 2 skill. And the 2 skill in both the modes here, and it's pretty nice. But we've also got Piercing Gale, so if you do have like a downtime on one of these abilities, you can use Piercing Gales, and that's really nice as well. So what we're going to do here is 2, 4. Yeah, you don't really need Cloudburst in PvE because the cooldown on the 2 skill is already really low. And we Hawkeye there, 2 skill, and then we can 2 into Piercing Gale. Oh, they died. I've got 4 wind force right now, so I want to do 1 more so I can get my Hawkeye. And then we Hawkeye, just like big damage, and then we swap out, which gives us rapid fire trigger with the quick draw, and we do another rapid fire, and there's the Shrike trigger, and we go in, use the 2 skill, 2 skill again. Let's do Supersonic, because why not? And then we can Hawkeye now. Leave and use the 2 into 4 into 2. Yeah, we have a lot of quickness because we get the quickness from this, quickness from that, and I haven't used the F2 skill manually, but it's on basically on auto cast, so I'll get the quickness, as you can see there from the pet. So yeah, that's pretty much the main idea of the PvE build. We're just trying to get as much of these Shrike triggers as possible. And it's just kind of fun to shoot projectiles sometimes, and that's it. Okay, here's the idea for a fun PvP build. I've got the Zerk Amulet, Relic of the Eagle. Nothing to do with Galeshot or the bird stuff, it's just more damage. Then I have Vampirism Rune, because a little bit of vitality comes a long way when you have basically no vitality. This isn't Untamed. Untamed has bonus vitality built in, so we just want a little bit of extra vitality because we're kind of squishy, and we just get full damage on the longbow. We're going to be doing our combo in this set as well, so just as much damage as possible, and energy cleansing on the sword Warhorn, which we'll be using for kiting. And then we've got wilderness survival with wilderness knowledge for a little bit of sustain. We've got the heal skill and the lightning reflex to give us some extra cleansing, because you don't really get any cleansing anywhere else. We got Field of Rush to get us some swiftness when we use movement skills, so we got a decent amount of those. And the main idea is that we've got Remorseless. Whenever we gain Fury, we're going to gain that extra 100% crit chance that does 25% extra damage. And we get Fury whenever we use our heal skill, whenever we swap pet, and I believe using Hawkeye. And we want to use that on the supersonic arrow because that does a lot of damage. So that's the main idea of the build. And let's give our allies some stealth. I'm going to start with this. There's a Paragon there. We're just going to blast them even though they're the tank. And that guy just got some hang time. Let's go for stealth here. And then I get feared in my supersonic, so that's not great. Let's do it here. And I tab target to the wrong guy. Try to get this immobilized here. Tornado on the down. My Hawkeye's ready. He evades. Alright, let's go for... My leap just went nowhere. What was that? That was just an insane damage nuke from that Luminary. I have no idea what does that, to be honest. I haven't really played the Luminary that much, but I think that's one of their stances that does that massive AoE after a certain number of hits. Let's go into mid. We're not really playing the objectives, but it's an unranked game. It doesn't really matter. Try to go for the supersonic here. Swap pet. There we go. The 8K. We can do our Hawkeye. This Ritualist is in Shroud, though. Let's get the barrage on them. Leap at this guy and use my Warhorn 4. Okay, he's not in range to do my... I need to swap pet here in combat to get the extra ammo. Let's just do 24252, because that's the most damage. You can do the supersonic first, or you can do the 24252 combo, depending on the situation. Okay, let's cleanse. Barrage. He's going for me. Let's dodge this. Tornado on myself. And rapid fire him. Okay. Let me go for some stealth here with my pet. Give myself the Fury. Which means my next attack will crit, so I can go for the supersonic. He dodges randomly, even though I'm in stealth. Hawkeye time. And we leap at them. Rapid fire with the Warhorn 4 there. Swap pets to gain some ammo if I want. Alright, there's still a lot of people over there. I'm just going to keep pushing in, but I'm kind of watching their respawning area. Alright, what's going on over here? Let's go for this guy. Supersonic, unblockable. Down that guy. Okay, we don't have sides. We're getting the decap on our home. Their Galeshot is here. I'm going to stealth. Go for a supersonic. Do Warhorn 4 first. Let's wait for it. Wait for it. And now, supersonic. Big burst. Hawkeye. And then we'll go for a little bit more damage here. Rapid fire. Our ally is down, but I think we can just cleave this, maybe. And that will be enough. Yep, we got it down again. Let's swap pet to get some ammo. I'm gonna do my next burst here. Supersonic it didn't crit because I did not have any weapons or pet swap. I could have Hawkeyed there as well, but I swapped out early. Okay, we're losing home. I mean, I'm not gonna play a duelist, and we're kind of zerging non-stop. Team targets me. Okay. Alright then. Galeshot's trying to Galeshot on me, but he ain't gonna do it. Their luminaries coming in. They're playing very sneaky this game. I don't want to fight on node though. I'm gonna go for this ritualist instead. Let's go for the supersonic. He dodged. Getting Aegis or something is blocking there. He can port behind me if he wants to. He's gonna die there. Got shot by a Galeshot. There he is. Oh, it's actually a soul beast. It's tornado on this. Okay, our ally's down. We need to cleave this. Getting dazed. Knock this guy off of me. Blocking. Could use this, the unblockable. Hawkeye's ready. Can use it while kiting. And just keep getting distance. So we have a decent amount of sustain with the dodge. Because when we dodge we get protection. So it's not the squishiest build, but it's definitely somewhat squishy. Because, I mean, we're pretty much full Zerk. Not many evades. Let's get this guy. Rapid fire. I'm gonna go for the luminary. Didn't get much damage because we didn't crit there. Go for Hawkeye. I'm not sure if the Hawkeye actually gives Fury at the start because that didn't crit, did it? I mean, it crits on the first hit, right? But I didn't see the first hit crit. Ooh, big daze there. I need to use my heal, but if I get hit by anything, I won't be able to use that, yeah. I was just in a sudden death situation there. I couldn't use my heal. But we're able to get alive. He goes for the decap as a trade-off to me getting that revive. He doesn't get it, though. Can I jump up this? Yeah. Ritualist. Supersonic it. 10k? That's pretty big. There's the Hawkeye going out. Rapid fire. Okay, I want to get a cripple on this guy so that I can immobilize him. There it is. Let's put this on the node. Knock him back. He's used his protection. He's just jumped on me. Sonic missed. Hawkeye, because I mean, I guess why not? Okay, our teammate's dying here. That one's dead as well. I don't want to be in here anymore. Stealth. Get some... Oh, let's go for a supersonic while we're in stealth there. Big hit. Yeah, that's a nice combo because the heal skill gives me the fury, so I get that guaranteed shot. Okay, we get this kill. Knock this guy off. My allies. Sends a Galeshot over there. They have 2 longbow rangers. Can we get this guy with the leaps? Tornado. Oh, he's already dead. He's gone. Alright, let's go for the ritualist. Galeshot coming in. Oh, my pet died. So let's do this into the supersonic. Big crit. He's in Shroud, so I guess... I don't know if Ritualist Shroud has reduced damage on it, but I guess it does, because that only did 4k. This guy's coming in. My pet's gonna die, unfortunately. Okay, what happened to my barrage, though? What was my barrage at? Let's back up. This guy's dead on node. Let's go for a supersonic. Nice hit. He double dodges, and we get the down. Knocked me back, as expected. And that was a stomp. What stomped that? Can Ritualist stomp from range? I don't know. But we're going to come in here. Pew pew this guy a little bit. I see there's another, the soul beast is over here. I'm going to wait to use my supersonic now. There's the damage. I have something on me. I don't know what it is. The luminary. Hawkeye? Okay, let's go in stealth here. Yep, we're getting focused a little bit. I'm going to get out of danger. The Bullhorn 4 on that guy. A rapid fire action. He's really low. Dodge. Knock him down. Oh, I hit him with a 100% crit auto attack. Let's put the barrage and the NATO on the down body. And then I'm going to supersonic if they go for the res to stop the res. The luminary's on me. Here we go, here we go. Supersonic, and it hits. Oh, but that is dangerous. Dodge backwards. Dodge backwards again. Leap forwards. We got the mobility, that's for sure. Let's finish this fight before they come in. We don't have supersonic, but we can do 2, 4, 2, 3. We need one more ammo, and then we can finish this off for the win. Yeah, that's GG. Yeah, so I mean, the Galeshot is, yeah, pretty fun. The supersonic does a lot of damage. I did 23% of the team's damage, which wasn't a lot, to be honest. But it's doing my part. As a roamer, it's more like, you know, I'm not a DPS, I'm not a... and, you know, projectiles aren't necessarily the most powerful thing. And we went for wilderness survival as a little bit of a sustain there. I think you could maybe do more damage with marksman, but just be way squishier. But yeah, I think this build is pretty good. So yeah, if you like this content, please like and subscribe. If you want to see more of the elite specs, then obviously I will be doing that in the future. And of course, making the most fun and powerful builds when the full launch occurs. So that being said, I will see you all next time.